I'm Vic Meyers. Welcome to the Resistance.
Hey, everybody. As you probably know, that is Resistor Vic. I am really grateful to have him sitting here today as he gets ready to run for Colorado House District 47. Vic, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No, man, you were one of the first people I started following on TikTok, and I love the welcome to the resistance bit, which I think has now changed over to, welcome to the campaign, which is just another step in the resistance. So good on you for putting your money where your mouth is and taking a step to represent people. I'd love to give people a little bit of background on you. I did some research on you, and there's more than meets the eye. It's not just a guy in a hat standing out there welcoming us to the resistance. You were a AMA Rocky Mountain Region Enduro champion,
No, that
right?
was my dad. I was a
That was
motocross racer. Dad was
you.
the champion.
He's the champion, but you were a racer for a number of years, right?
Yeah. And
Okay.
I have a couple of championship trophies, but
Yeah.
not the big ones that I wanted. I wanted to be a pro motocross racer. I went
Yeah.
into the Army instead, and that's one of those things you got to have a lot of money to do that if you're going to
Right.
go pro.
Right. But so not just coming from a line of motocross racers, you were also coming from a line of veterans, right?
Yeah.
Service to
And
America.
it wasn't something we talked about when I was a kid. It wasn't grandpa was in the Army, so you've got to go in. It wasn't like that.
Yeah.
It's just something that my family has always done, public service,
And how
like
far
it's
does that go
genetic.
back? I want to say it goes back quite a ways.
My sixth great grandfather, granduncle, I always get it confused,
Yeah.
was Brigadier General Andrew Pickens. He led the Battle of Cowpens in the Revolutionary War, which is depicted in the Patriot, the Mel Gibson movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a pretty significant battle in the Revolutionary War. And after that, he was promoted to general.
Wow. So a long line of service to country, which you continue to do.
Yes.
Yeah. Now you served yourself, obviously, in the 101st, and you were a mechanic, right? Like a helicopter mechanic?
Chinooks. Yes.
Okay. Y-
That was a great gig. Getting up there, we went down to Honduras for 4 months, which was an experience.
Yep.
Honduras was peaceful, but we were sitting there in Guatemala one day at the Guatemala International Airport, and it's just one strip. And on one side is the civilian side, and the other side's the military side. And we're sitting there, and we're hearing this snap, wing. I'm like, what is that? I don't know. Heard it again. What is that? I'd never been shot at before.
Yeah.
And about the time we figured it out, I looked up, and there's some guy running at us with a pistol. And that was the same time that the Guatemalan army took care of him. Quite thoroughly.
Right.
And yeah, so that's the closest thing I've come to combat. And I can't imagine. I mean, I spent the night in my bathroom in the hotel, you know,
Sure.
so that was nothing compared to what Iraq and Afghanistan veterans went through. And I can only imagine. So to have people like my opponent in this race disrespect veterans the way he did, it just sets me off big time.
Now your opponent is Ty Winter, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk us through that, like some of the disrespect he's shown veterans?
Well, he is the assistant minority leader in the Colorado House. And on February 10th of last year, when Trump was pardoning all the J6ers, he led all of the House Republicans to literally physically turn their backs while these veterans were addressing the legislature to say, we want you to support this resolution condemning the pardons. So not only did he piss all over our service by being an avid supporter of January 6th, as a member of the Proud Boys, no less, but then to turn his back on our veterans who are just simply there to say, this is how these pardons make us feel about our service. And he turned his back on him, and not just his, but told all of his other Republicans we're turning our backs. And they did it.
Yeah.
So that I didn't know when he got elected 4 years ago. I didn't know anything about him except he was the head of the local Republican Party. And then when
Right.
he ran for re-election 2 years ago, I didn't know that he was a Proud Boy. And then I learned that he was a Proud Boy. About the same time, I learned about what he did to our veterans at the Capitol. And that was the day that I determined that he would not be our representative again. He would not win re-election. And I actually tried to find other people to run. And I wasn't able to find anybody else to run because my wife was very much not happy with the idea of me running. I've ran campaigns before and she was like, no more campaigns. So I tried to find somebody else. And when I couldn't, and to be clear, I wanted to run 2 years ago and 4 years ago, but without the wife agreeing, I didn't feel I could, because we're a team.
Yeah, sure.
But this time, she was still not supportive until I told her, it's like, look, I can't have this person representing us in government, not this person with what he is and what he's done. And I've tried to find somebody else and couldn't. So you can be mad at me. You can lay down the law about what I can and cannot do in the campaign, whatever you want, but I'm running.
Yeah.
And she's coming around.
You decided to take a stand for what's right.
Well, I couldn't not run was the thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't let somebody like that be in our government with no opposition, just say, yeah, it's okay. It doesn't matter, because it does matter.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What are the things when you're running? I mean, obviously you have a guy here who disgraces veterans and disgraces, the 149, police officers who were injured, the number of people who died during January 6th. Seems to be a trend with him, a part of a militant organization. What are the other things when you're thinking about representing, District 47? What are the other things that you bring to the table that you want to improve in the lives of your future constituents?
The number one thing is to make Colorado stronger against a federal government that is pushing boundaries and intruding on states' rights like crazy these days. The way we deal with that as a state is going to matter. Hopefully Democrats win across the board in November and they can seriously throttle him down. But even if that's the case, he's still going to be given orders and he's still going to have executive power. And every state needs to be building themselves up to withstand that, just like the northern states did after the 1850 Slave Insurrection Act was passed, telling the northern states that they had to go along with slavery. That's not exactly what it said, but the point is the northern states said, no, federal government, we're pushing back. And they were able to do that because they were strong enough to do it. And I want to do that in Colorado by making our schools, especially in Colorado, rural areas, rural districts like ours, we always get the short end of the stick when it comes to education funding, rural hospitals, you name it. Our roads, our highways, the construction here compared to Denver is horrendous. It's just low quality because there's nobody as a watchdog saying this is our tax money too. If there's a big snowstorm, all of our snow plows head north to the big city as if we don't need to get to work too. So I want to be the kind of representative that goes to Denver, not as a member of the Democratic Party, but as a Democrat who is fighting to turn that machine into a representative one again, and one that stops ignoring the rural areas of America, at least the rural areas of Colorado.
Yeah, stepping away from the establishment and actually becoming a representative of the people who elect you and pay you there.
That's what we're going to have to do. If we want to save our country from the direction that it's going, then we need to start electing, once again, people who are actually representing the people that are voting. And one of the things I want to do along those lines, we have a supposed independent redistricting commission in Colorado that draws our boundary lines for state legislative districts and congressional districts. Funny thing is, we have several very extremely safe districts for Republicans and for Democrats. And if you look at House District 47, it's 9 counties, and it gets a big chunk of population to meet the number it needs by wrapping around the city of Pueblo and going into Pueblo West. It's definitely gerrymandered, and it's made safe for the Republicans. I want to do away with all safe districts. I think the best way to get representative government back, or one of the best ways anyway, is for us to have competitive districts everywhere so that the people running to represent us have to actually talk to us. They have to win the argument of the issues instead of simply saying, I'm the Democrat that's running, so I'm going to win, or I'm the Republican, so I'm going to win. That is a huge problem with our democracy all across the country, if you ask me.
No, I think you're right. And I think there's been more of a focus on the gerrymandering issue along with Citizens United and where the money is coming from to prop up all of these, candidates across the country. It does feel like there is a upswing in attention and focus on that and fixing the actual machine itself, if you will, of how people are elected and, how states are divided up and represented. Colorado has turned bluer recently in the last number of years. Do you feel like um, members of the state, like citizens of the state, are just getting tired of the Republican kind of way of doing business and the lack of progress that seems to make in all of these red-led states?
No, I think that Colorado is turning bluer because the Colorado Republican Party is knucking futz. I mean, these guys run the craziest candidates.
Yeah.
And they're constantly infighting, suing each other, their state party lead. It's crazy the kind of people that they run for office, like my opponent, who is a verified member of the Proud Boys and other racist groups. That's the kind of person the Republican Party is putting into their elections here in Colorado. If it wasn't for that, I'm not sure that we would have a supermajority in the House. I'm not sure that we would have the governor's office because our governor is very unpopular with Democrats. He's anti-labor, very pro-business. So I think that we're lucky because the Republicans in Colorado were so bad at what they do.
Yeah, and the people of Colorado just don't. It doesn't seem like they want that flavor of representation, at least
Yeah, they don't.
in the majority.
I mean,
Yeah.
I have a very red district that I'm running in. It's like +6, +9, somewhere around there. But it's not that kind of Republican. Yeah, we've got our share of tie winners. On January 6th, I was coming home from work, and these guys go out on the overpass on the interstate about 5 miles from here that I have to cross over to get home. And on January 6th, they were all out there celebrating. So we've got our share. But by and by, I would say that the Republicans in this district are more Reagan Republicans, not MAGA Republicans. And when I moved down here 20-some years ago, it was a very, very blue district. Republicans didn't run. And now the guys that used to run my precinct caucuses are all Republicans and holding office as Republicans. So it's not that we are all like that down here, that the Republicans are like that down here. I think they're more FDR Democrat than anything. But the Democratic Party has moved so far away from its roots, so far away from Main Street, that makes it hard for Democrats to win in places like this.
Yeah, +6 or +7, the way things have been going nationwide with a bunch of these elections, yeah, I would say that you've got a chance for sure.
Oh, I've got
Absolutely.
more than a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Ty
seems
Winner is not popular. When I go around town and tell people, hey, I'm running against Ty Winner, they're like, oh, thank God.
right,
That guy is so radical. I
right.
mean, he is not, there's nothing about him that reflects the people of this district. Like I said, a very, very few, the ones who stand out there on the overpass every Sunday waving their flags. That's
Yeah.
his core group, but it doesn't make up the working class, the ranchers, the farmers in this district. That population center up there in Pueblo West I told you about, they're not the, support the pedophile president type Republicans.
Yeah. You mentioned, education, you mentioned labor, and you were a teacher,
I
right? Like
was.
you were a middle school teacher for a bit of time. You also were part of a union. You were on the board of education as the treasurer, for the school. You've done a lot of things in between the motocross and the 101st. And what are some of the other things that you've done in your life? Like you are a well-traveled man, it appears, as I look at your bio.
Yeah. And that's all with 17 years working in the Department of Corrections, most of
That's
which I
right.
was a
That's
case
right.
manager.
Yeah.
I went to college because I wanted to be a high school math teacher. And while I was in college, I went to the Army first. So the guys that I went to high school with had already graduated and started their careers. And I'm in college. I'm on track to be a teacher. And the folks that I knew from high school that were teachers were miserable. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to purposely go into a field where I'm going to be made miserable. So I changed my minor to physics, and I was a software engineer for a couple of years after college, and I worked for a defense contractor, and I really hated that. You've got to watch money being flushed down the toilet, and you can't say a word. I'd actually applied and was accepted for a job at the steel mill in Pueblo. Later learned that I was going to be put into a management track, but they didn't tell me that because I was accepted for the Department of Corrections at the same time. And that allowed me to get a lot closer to home because I was driving like 80 miles one way every day for work. I was like, well, this gets me home.
It's a lot.
So I started my career with the Department of Corrections. I promoted down here, and that enabled us to have some land. And I worked there for 17 years, learned a lot about our criminal justice system, mainly that justice is a very loosely used word in our criminal justice system. I can tell you easily the most racist counties in Colorado just based on the years of convictions that I saw and how people get convicted and charged and so forth. That's one area I would like to work on as a representative. It's not at the top of my list. I don't know, maybe it should be, but I don't think it will be important to the people that I want to represent if I want to be their voice. I don't think they'll see it as a top issue, but reforming our criminal justice system and our prison system would be something that I would take every opportunity to do. But anyway, it's when my kids were in school, I saw that they weren't getting the education that I thought they should. My third grade daughter was bringing home the same paper math work. I mean, they were getting handouts instead of an actual book. And 2 grades separate bringing home the same work. And I thought, you know what, this is not cool. So I got on the school board and I did what I could to improve things. And think about running on school board or being on the school board is half the town hates you and half the town loves you.
Right.
It is the most thankless elected position, I think, anywhere. But I was there for 4 years, and then I wasn't happy in the prison working there. It wasn't working with the offenders. It was the management of the prison system itself. And one day I just had enough and I turned in my badge. I said, I'm out. I can't do this anymore. Slept great that night. And that's when I decided, you know what? I wanted to be a teacher once upon a time. Let's try it. So I went to work in Walsenburg as a middle school math teacher. And I absolutely loved being a teacher. I loved being with the kids. I have great stories from it. But our system, our education system, does not support the classroom. It doesn't support learning. It does everything it can to make it as hard as possible for the teacher at the expense of the education of the kids. It's all catering to parents. It's all looking at the test scores. I mean, standardized testing is important when it's used for gauging success, but it is absolutely horrible when it's monetized by the professional education system, the people who make the books, the people who make the software. Those people have taken standardized testing and turned it into a money pot for them. And then we have our politicians who are saying, well, we're going to use standardized testing to judge schools and punish them if they're not doing well, instead of using those scores to say, you know what, this school here, their scores are low. We need to give them more support. Instead of doing that, they say we're going to punish the school. And then we've taken our school system and we've fractured it so that we don't really have community schools anymore. We don't have a school system that a neighborhood is centered around. You know, and if Johnny's not doing well in school, they go to the school and they complain to the principal, they complain to the teacher. And if they don't appease the parent, then the parent says, well, I'm going to take my child to another school. And that school loses the funding for that child.
Right.
You know, it's turned into a money game. And then we're letting the right wingers get involved with directing our curriculum and, you know, making decisions that they have no business making because they're not making them based on what's best for kids. So that's a really important issue to me. And my daughter is a high school English teacher to boot. So
yeah. So how does Resistor Vic come about? What is the origin story for Resistor Vic, where you start showing up on people's, you know, screens and talking about the kind of things that are going on in your state and in this country, and, you know, leading a resistance against that?
You know, when I started making videos on TikTok, because when it became apparent that Kamala Harris was going to be the nominee, I thought, wow, that's not going to play well with the older white rural people. So I thought, you know what? What if they had an older white rural person out there saying, you know, this is acceptable? So I made a video for Facebook, and Facebook wouldn't put it up. I mean, it was up, but nobody, absolutely nobody saw it. So I thought, well, I did this one TikTok video a long time ago making fun of Lauren Boebert. I got the account. Let's put it on TikTok. So I did. And the next thing you know, I've got lots of people, you know, commenting, following, sharing. Oh, that's cool. I'll make another one. So I made them throughout the Harris campaign, trying to get rural white gun owning people to say, or to see that it's acceptable. You don't have to go with your prejudiced and your prejudged notions. You can actually look at the candidate. And I was trying to give arguments for why. And then they made Trump the nominee for the Republicans. And I thought, hell no. This guy's a convicted felon. He's the way he treats women, and he's dumber than a box of rocks. I mean, I've got to do everything I can. So I started making the videos, and then I couldn't believe that he won. And when he did,
I don't think
I was
a lot
like,
of the country could.
yeah, what am I going to do now? Should I just go away, or do I need to continue making videos? Obviously, it wasn't going to be, if Kamala Harris thinks I'll vote for her, she's right. That's how I introed my videos before. But I thought, what's my tag? As well, we have to resist what's coming, because to me, having read Project 2025, having learned some history about previous fascist movements in America, and having a grandfather who fought in World War I and another one who survived Pearl Harbor, it's like, I cannot just sit back quietly and hope things get better. I've got to do as much as I can, because when you live in a place like I do, far away from everybody, it's not like I can go downtown and hold rallies and make a difference.
Right.
I can't knock on enough doors to change enough minds. But I had a following on social media, so it's like, I will use the voice that I have to do whatever good I could do. And that's where Resistor Vic came from. Funny enough, the tag Resistor Vic, welcome to the resistance. Some of my previous online colleagues hated it. They absolutely did not want me to use resistance, and they're more centrist types. They didn't think that resistance was the message that we needed to be sending. I was like, well, I took a poll of my viewers and they like it. So
I
resistance
think the
it
country
is.
likes it. Resistance is in, man.
It seems to be working.
It seems to be working. Yeah. So thank you for resisting, and not just that, but being a leader of the resistance as well. So if you had a chance to get in front of a bunch of District 47 voters here for the next minute, 90 seconds, what would be your pitch to them to vote for you in November?
You know, I have been going over that in my head so many different directions. Part of me wants to say, I know that a good number of you are Republicans, but how can you still be a Republican? Because you're not the kind of people that supports what's going on in this administration. But I don't want my campaign to be just anti-Republican, anti-tie winner. I mean, there's that piece of it. But at the end of the day, what I want to convince people of is that, one, we need to make Colorado stronger. And we do that by making our systems and our institutions stronger, our education system stronger. Because, you know, how many years have we been told that the federal government was interfering with our local education, when in fact they weren't? It's always been local school boards who decide curriculum. But now we have a federal government that wants to tell us that we can't have DEI programs. We can't say DEI in our programs, in our hiring, and so forth. If we do, they're going to come after us. That's federal intrusion. So we need to make our public education system strong enough to, one, be an actual education system again, but two, withstand that federal pressure so that there's no way they don't have any leverage over us. One of the things, and this policy is going to be up on my website in the next day or two if it didn't go up today, flock cameras, the automated license plate readers. That's a huge issue for me, because I don't know if you saw my video a few months ago about, there was the Atlantic, I think, and a story about how Customs and Border Patrol is using license plate reader cameras all across the country, tracking all Americans in their travel. They're feeding it into AI, and they can tell you where you drove on a particular day and who you met, because that person drove there too. It's crazy. And I think one of the things we do to protect ourselves is to say at the state level, no, you will not have any of these license plate reader cameras on government property.
Yeah.
You can't do anything about private property, but we can say you can't have them on government property anywhere. And the government agencies will not allow the use of their data. And the first pushback is going to come from, well, that's how we catch car thieves, or that, things like that, or missing persons. It's like, well, you know what? you're not preventing any crime. What prevents crime is things like investing in affordable housing, higher wage jobs, stable communities. That prevents crime. And if you prevent more crime than you catch with these cameras, because it's very minimal, the number of criminals that get caught with these cameras, they're being used more to track us than to actually catch criminals. And I don't think
the
that's the
federal
future
government
we
reaching
want.
into our lives a little bit more. Yep.
So we can take those resources that we're currently spending on these flock cameras and put them towards better schools, towards social services that give people a hand up when they really, really need it, to fund our school lunches. I mean, Colorado, last November, we voted to actually fund school lunches all across the state, regardless of your income. Lunch is free, which was a great move. But there's other things we can do with that money that will make a bigger impact on crime than just trying to catch people.
Yep, for sure. Well, Vic, one of the leaders of the resistance, you got a great message, and I hope that the constituents of District 47 hear it and respond to it. And yeah, I wish you all the best. You've been a guy who has served throughout his life, just from talking to you, between the military and teaching and other avenues, and being a vocal leader. And now again, you're putting your money where your mouth is and stepping forward. So I wish you all the best. If you're out in Colorado, please support Vic. He's the type of guy that we need in position all across the country. And I thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you. And if people want to help the campaign, they can go to vic4hd47.com, vicforcolorado.com, vicfordemocracy.com. They'll all take you to the same place. You can see my website, get more details about me. And again, my policies are going to be getting populated on that website as I finish writing them. And these are my policies that are not written by a lobbyist group somewhere. I'm putting the thought into what I think should be. And then I'm going to take those policies and, like my education policy, right now I just have the outline. I'm sharing it with various school personnel, school board members, teachers, and saying, what am I missing? Is there something from your perspective that's wrong? And then I will write the policy that I believe I should fight for. And then that's going to be on my website. So anyway, you can learn about me like that, and you can, there's donate buttons all over that website. So feel free to use them. They all work. And thank you for having me on and helping me spread my message.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to push all that around as well. So yeah, thanks, Vic. Thanks for what you're doing. And we wish you the best, and hope to see you in the House of Colorado come next year.
You will.
All right. Thanks, Vic.
Thank you.
That was good stuff, man.